And now, from the Career Tech Studios in Stillwater, here's your host, Rob McClendon.
When voters head to the polls on November 2nd, they'll be asked to decide an issue that is getting as much attention as any candidate running for office. State Question 744, if passed, would amend the state constitution to require the legislature to fund K through 12 public schools to the per pupil average of surrounding states. A seemingly simple question that has sparked a contentious debate.
60 million to 30 million.
When Oklahoma school teachers started class this fall, it was with fewer resources than surrounding states. Oklahoma ranks 49th in per pupil expenditures, something State Question 744 seeks to change.
744 will bring per student investment up to the regional average.
Oklahoma currently spends about $8,000 per student per year on education, which is $1,600 less than surrounding states. If passed, State Question 744 will require the legislature to raise spending on K through 12 to that 6-state average.
Maybe one of the more devastating things that I saw on the state board is...
Tim Gilpin is a member of Oklahoma's State Board of Education.
Seeing those facts and figures at the state level for the last 6 years at the state board, I can tell you that we have never fulfilled our promise, fulfilled it to education. And what that's meant is Oklahoma's lagged behind, last in the region in what we spend per student, 49th in the nation. Now, 49 is not good enough.
It's a message that Gilpin and other supporters of 744 hope to blanket the state with before Election Day, at public forums like this,
dollars extra,
to media buys on TV.
Oklahoma State falls to Missouri.
But we're not talking about football. We're talking about our schools coming in last.
If we can do the fulfillment to have enough resources to make this work right, then we can keep our good teachers, bring more good teachers, and give those teachers in the classroom the kind of resources they need so our children can compete, not only with Arkansas and Texas, which they're not doing right now, but in a global economy.
Currently, Common Education is the single largest recipient of taxpayer dollars, roughly 1/3 of the state budget. Under 744, funding would increase by another $850 million. Something opponents of the state question say we simply cannot afford.
How do you pay for it? We can do things in Oklahoma at a level that they can't do in Houston.
Jeff Wilson leads One Oklahoma, a coalition of groups and organizations generally supportive of public education, yet opposing 744 largely for one reason.
If we pass State Question 744, there's no funding mechanism. You may see higher property taxes. The legislature may go back and have to revisit how we tax ourselves in Oklahoma when it comes to ad valorem. You might see, for instance, if you take this figure just at a minimum of $850 million, which we know it's much more than that, closer to $1.7 billion, but using that $850 million mark, that's a $1,200 per family of 4 increase in your property taxes. It's much higher in rural Oklahoma on your landowners who farm for a living.
And if state taxes don't go up, state services will go down.
When it comes to State Question 744, the answer is always no. There's no way to pay for the $1.7 billion price tag every year.
State services without a doubt will be impacted. As you know, Oklahoma is a tough state to increase taxes, so the legislature is going to have to do a combination of both. What's most likely the scenario is a combination of tax increases and spending cuts. So state services are on the chopping block.
Leslie Osborn is a state representative from Chickasha.
Right now, we have a balanced budget amendment in Oklahoma, which is a good thing, which means we can't spend more money than we take in. Obviously, we're not in trouble like a lot of other states like California. However, that means that if somebody comes in and puts an unfunded mandate on how we spend our state dollars, those dollars have to come from somewhere else. And that either means a large tax increase, and we're talking about in the range of a 35% increase in either sales tax or income tax. And the only other option, if we didn't do that, is to take that amount of money that would go to the Hope petition, which would go to education spending, and take it out of every other agency, which would be about a 20 to 22% cut from every other agency in the state.
Cuts that those opposing the measure say would cost jobs and reduce needed services.
Numbers that you need to know. 8 or 9 prisons would close, and 8,400 criminals would be on the streets. 125 state troopers and 125 support staff off the state payroll. You're looking at dramatic cuts to DHS, to nursing home inspectors, child abuse investigators. And most importantly, well, I shouldn't say most importantly, but very importantly, what you're looking at is a cut of almost $400 million to ODOT. So that's 200 bridges off the 8-year road and bridge plan, and a $400 million cut to ODOT's budget at the end of the 3-year phase-in.
And such a siphoning away of state services is one of the reasons top lawmakers in the state have all come out against State Question 744. Chancellor of Higher Education Glenn Johnson says while he can neither oppose nor support the measure, he has seen studies of the effects it could have on colleges and career tech.
I think just looking at it very objectively, those in higher education would have concerns that without a funding source for State Question 744, not just higher education but all of the other services of state government will be reduced in order to fund the requirements of State Question 744.
But proponents of the state question say if approved, lawmakers would have 3 years to fully fund the measure.
You know, this is about adequate resources. You know, we're not shooting for the stars here. We're just talking about the regional average. We're talking about Arkansas, Texas. You know, we can do that. This state can spend the regional average over a period of time. This is phased in. If this passes in November, it's not until the next fiscal year that it begins, and then it phases in over 3 years after that. That's something, if we set our priorities right, Oklahoma can do.
My grandchildren deserve better, and there's no free lunch.
Ed Long is a former state senator and chair of the Education Committee and says he favors the passage of 744 because it forces his successors at the Capitol to do something few of them would voluntarily do: raise taxes.
It won't be for free, but it'll cost more. But people will be proud of it. Our children do better.
Something those opposing the measure say they want as well, just not at the expense of others.
And all of us are for public education. I have 2 children that graduated public educated, a little bitty school, Amber Pocasset, and we all want more funding, but we're already in a terrible economic crunch, and we're going to add 22% cut to every agency on top of that.
So does more money actually mean better schools? Well, according to a recent report comparing school funding to student test scores, the top performing students come from Massachusetts, which is 8th in the nation in per pupil spending. New Jersey, which is number 1 in spending, also ranks in the top 5 of student performance. But on the flip side, the District of Columbia, which spends the 3rd most per student, also came in dead last in student performance.